Well, I'm not always working on boats. This morning, I'm gonna use my bandsaw to cut out all these little cars here. The Awana program at church, they do the Grand Prix race, and the children sand them and paint them and decorate them and put the wheels on them and all that, and they race them. They have a ball with it. They have such fun with it. It's fun to watch too. And so I'll show you what I've got going on here this morning. I'm getting ready to take this quadrant off. This packing gland, this is an Edson brand rudder shaft packing gland. It has 3 bolts. And of course this is bronze and the bolts were stainless. This bolt and this bolt came out no problem. This bolt back here had crevice corrosion, but I put the wrench on it and it turned freely, so I thought it was going to come right out, and it just kept turning and turning and turning. And then I just took my fingers and just lifted it out, and it was just a rusty brake, like where I had crevice corrosion and broke at some point in time. It had about a 1/2 inch of thread sticking out the bottom, so I've been lubricating it with PB Blaster for several days, and I heated it up and let it cool back down, trying to get it out. And with vice grips on the bottom piece just crumbled off in my hand as well, just like it was just like nothing there. So I've got to drill it out and retap it, or either replace the whole thing. Either way, I got to take the quadrant off. So I'm fixing to take this off, and I think I've got enough room to, well, I know I can take this off just right where it's at. And then I should have enough room to take this off up the top without taking the whole rudder off. I'll take the rudder off if I need. This bottom flange on this is actually glassed into the rudder tube, the fiberglass rudder tube. So I'm hoping I don't have to replace it, but if I do, I do. But if I do, I've got to cut it out and re-glass it back in. And this is not only the packing gland for that rudder shaft, it also acts as the top bushing point or bearing point. So it's very important that it be there and be sturdy. The joys of working on a boat. There's never any room, and everything is always more difficult than it should be. Like I said, there's always that one bolt. I'm saying you're one broken bolt away from a 1-hour job taking a week or whatever. That's about what the situation is here. Should have been able to take that bolt out, in a couple of minutes, and it's going to turn out taking possibly days, literally, to get all this apart, get that drilled out, retap, all glass back in, everything put back together. But that's just part of the life of working on a boat, and that's no joke. It's always difficult. Okay, so I got the quadrant off, and I got the top part of that packing gland off, and I took that's the packing that was in there, but I just used a little dental pick type of a tool here and just got in there like that right there and pulled out that packing. This looks like a 3/8 inch packing, and then it's clean bronze inside. Everything's clean in there and nice, shiny bronze. But this bolt right here crumbled apart, and I didn't really realize it at the time, but that bolt, I knew it was a shorter bolt than the other, but I wasn't really paying that much attention to it when I took it out. But this one right here left some part of the bolt down in there too. So this one here's going to have to be drilled out and retapped as well. That one back there came out clean all the way through. So I've got 2 to drill and tap. I still may end up needing to pull the rudder just to get that rudder shaft out of my way, where I can get a nice clean straight shot. I'll try to take this rudder off this morning. I need a little bit more room inside the boat to be able to drill out those rusted out bolts. Yeah. Okay, a nice heavy bronze shoe. Yeah, it's got a little bit of weight to it. And there you go. And she's heavy but dry, so that tells me it's most likely just solid layup. Like I say, no blisters, no cracks. It's made in 2 halves, as they almost always are. You can see the line where they're put together. I'll polish that shaft up really good right there. Okay, I'll pull that rudder shaft out so I've got some room so I can get in here with a drill above this thing. I've taken some PB plaster and saturated the holes there to get a little bit of lubrication for the drill bit, but also just to help break it loose maybe. And I am starting the drill with a smaller bit, and it's a left-handed bit with the drill in reverse. And what that'll do, it gives, rather than, you know, when you're drilling the hole the other way, it would be like tightening the bolt. When you use a left-handed drill, it acts as a, you know, to loosen the bolt. And so any vibration that, or whatever that might help loosen up the threads, it'll be in the right direction for coming out rather than getting tighter. So sometimes that helps. But there's not much room height-wise. I may have to go get a smaller drill, but we're going to give it a shot. Like I say, I'll start with a small bit and then work my way up to a bit that's closer to the size. And at some point in time, I'll put an easy out in it, see if I can get it to break loose. Okay, I've got both holes drilled with a small bit. That's about an 1/8 inch bit. I use this 2x2 on top of the drill, wedged in like that to pull down to give me a little bit of pressure, because it's not in a situation where I can put any pressure on it with my hand. Just not enough room to, you know, to get my arm up above it or anything to push. So I use that for leverage, and was able to get those 2 bits and our drills in there pretty good. So I'm gonna step up another step. I don't want to go too big with my drill bit, because if I'm not real careful, I'll booger up the bronze threads. So I want to stay in the center of the bolt, and I know I'm not dead center, so if I try to get too big, I'll end up shaving off the threads, and then I'll have to retap it a larger size, which I don't want to do unless I have to. But I can go one size up and still be fine. But more than that would start weakening it too much. And the main reason I'm slightly out of center with my hole, the main reason is because the bolts were not flat on top. They were broken and chipped up and at an angle and all, so I couldn't easily, you know, hold a bit in the center. It wanted to you know, walk away from center to find that crack in the bolt, or, you know, sliding down the slope of where it was broke off at an angle or whatever. So it was, you know, hard to hold it in the center. I just did the best I could with it, and that's why I used such a small bit to start with, so that if I did get off center, it wouldn't catch those threads. But it will limit me how large of a drill bit I can use at this point on. Just want to show you these bolts while I'm having to drill them out. So this one came out okay. This was the second one. It unthreaded, but if you look at the bottom of it, it left a portion of the bolt still in the threads, down in the bottom of the threads and on the back side. You can see there where it's, I mean, that's not a fresh break, that's old corrosion, and I guess that's what you would call crevice corrosion. That's what happens with stainless steel, especially whenever it's mixed with other metals, and in this case it was, you know, with bronze and then salt water. So that was the second one. And then the third one broke off ahead of the threads, you know, just at the head. And you can see there, that's not a new break. That was already completely in too before I touched it. Yeah, I got them re-drilled and re-tapped. Just finished the last one. I think I was able to save the old threads without drilling them out. This is some of the old bolt that the tap pushed on out. That was as close as I dared drill it. So now it's got to be cleaned up really good. The bronze actually looks good. It's not pink or anything like that. It doesn't look too corroded at all, honestly. It's just that green film on the outer edge, which I can take some a little bit of white vinegar and rub on that and get that off. Take a bronze wire brush and clean it up good. Clean it out good, because it's probably going to have some little slivers of metal in there now from where I've been drilling and tapping. So anyway, at least I don't have to spend $250 on that, plus a whole lot of labor to change it out, because it really does appear to be solid without any particular issue now that I got those bolts out. It's just got to be cleaned. For installation, maybe. This is from Boaters Forum. I think this is my the stuff that I put on my packing flax packing. And this is basically just a waterproof grease. It's designed to put on those around the packing glands. Yeah. Syntef. If you lubricate the packing before you put it in, it helps it to last longer and run cooler and that kind of thing. But when I repack that rudder shaft, I'm going to put that around it just to help stop any water from coming through. And this should be from Edson. This is should be my bolts and the packing. I need flax packing. Let's see what I got here. Yeah, okay, that's the 3/8 inch flax packing, and then you use the Syntef, which is basically synthetic Teflon grease, waterproof. That goes with that. And then these aluminum bolts. It's amazing how light those bolts are compared to the stainless. Packing back in, I use the packing I got from Edson, and then I use that Syntef stuff on it. Got it in, got it snugged up nice and snug. I did coat the stainless steel bolts with lanolin good, and the lock washers as well on those bolts on that rudder shaft seal housing. Hopefully it'll eliminate some of that corrosion that was on there before. Like I say, they've got the lock washer on them, which is really important because it goes against the head of the bolt, because there is no nut on it. It goes through a threaded bronze piece. Because with the lanolin on it, those bolts can back out pretty easy if you don't have a lock washer on them.